Welcome back everyone to the WAM, and thank you for joining me on our trek into becoming the biggest wrestling company here in TEW IX in Mark Northern's Effganic Genesis mod. We are sitting pretty here in 1933, and this is going to be a big episode. I'm really excited to get this one out to you because there's going to be some big developments in the world of our database. But before we can touch on any of that, we've got to get through our first event of the episode, the Fortnite Fisticuffs. And we're not going to waste any time, just getting right into it. Starting off with some pre-show matches. Turner Spittler beating down Jackson Barden in definitive and dominant fashion. Turner Spittler you can see with an in-ring performance of 63, great work. Jackson Barden just down there at a 26, but it is known that Turner Spittler will hold nothing back in efforts to squash lower competitors and make himself look as good as he can. So we get a match rating of 48 here. Another pre-show match. Ollie Schaefer getting into the ring. He's got some work to do to really get himself inserted into the heavyweight division. However, he gets off on a strong foot, defeating the legendary Jeremy Funderburk here in this pre-show match. Funderburk really off of his game, in-ring performance of 28. Ollie Schaefer, 33, match rating of 31. We've then got some intergender tag team action for the next match on our pre-show. Rhea Quarry and Rocco Lockwood teaming up to take on Brian Hatcher and Talia Rayleigh. Talia Rayleigh and Hatcher would actually be the duo to pick up the victory, as Talia forced Rhea Quarry to submit with a sleeper. Brian Hatcher with a great performance of 44, Rocco Lockwood and Talia Rayleigh at a 33, and Rhea Quarry at a 30. And it is worth noting, we had some backstage incidents where Neil Allman was getting into some shenanigans, and we find him. He was happy with it. It actually had a positive impact on him, but it angered Talia Rayleigh. Then Talia Rayleigh showed up late, causing Neil Allman to be unhappy with what we had to do with her. So it was just a whole mess, and now Talia Rayleigh is angry. So we got to keep an eye on that. But moving on, this was our final pre-show match, and it got us a rating of 36. Now as the show gets going, we've got tag team champions Diego Bergen and Kitahachi Kukui, the team of Barakui, to welcome everyone to the start of the show. Kukui fires up the crowd with a lively promo, and Diego Bergen closes things out by stating they are a pair of fighting champions ready for whatever challenges that may come their way. Segment rating of 46 here. Kitahachi Kukui, low-key, has some really good performance abilities. I think he's right up in the 90s or something like that, or pushing it anyway. So we are going to give Kukui more opportunities to get himself some more exposure in angles like this. Of course, they are the tag team champions. They just came off a successful defense at the last event, so they're feeling good. They don't have a match, but I wanted to keep them involved. Our next match has got Moses Lilia defeating August Washburn handedly in 8 minutes. Nothing too juicy about this match itself, just a really strong performance from Moses Lilia, just putting him down. Turner Spittler had a nice performance earlier on in the night, and now Moses Lilia following that up. At the last event, they had another run-in, and this just leads more into building Moses Lilia up into looking like a really credible threat to Turner Spittler, because Turner Spittler is a very powerful man in his own right. But we get a match rating of 43, not bad considering we've got August Washburn here. He just gets a 30 while Moses Lilia gets a 51. Up next, we've got the Oklahoma Openweight Championship on the line, and with no surprise, there's shenanigans afoot. And unfortunately, the fans were really turned off by the finish to the match, which does not help by any means, really hurting our rating here despite some okay performances. But we did have some penalties working against us. Chuck Wellington was really off of his game. He's got a gimmick that's starting to get stale. And then, of course, the ending. But the ending is paramount to Chuck Wellington's success as a champion, more or less. He's got Duke Wellington making distractions, helping him out. However, it is not in the capacity that you see. Of course, Angus and Duke are there doing their thing, pulling some BS, but this time Matu Scarborough comes down to put an end to it. And Matu Scarborough is just tired of seeing Chuck Wellington hang on to that Oklahoma Openweight Championship, and he's looking to change that. However, this would ultimately backfire, leading into more distraction to Maxwell Ham. He stopped Duke from shenaning once because you know he would shenan again. This would actually create a distraction in itself to Maxwell Ham, some tension between Scarborough and Maxwell, but ultimately Chuck Wellington hits Maxwell Ham with a big move, that closed fist strike, securing that 1-2-3 and the Oklahoma Openweight Championship. So poor rating, but a lot of story behind the match, a lot of context to it, I suppose. And I almost forgot that the great Matsuo is getting set to change his gimmick. He is Maxwell Ham's manager. It's just currently at an old school face, which is being rated awful. We're going to change it up to just the great Matsuo. It's pretty gimmicky. It got a poor rating. That's not what we're looking for, but maybe it can improve. We do have a segment though to wrap up that previous match, as Matu Scarborough is livid after Chuck Wellington managed to sneak out of this match with the championship. As Chuck made his exit, he began laughing in the face of Matu Scarborough. Just a quick brush between these two. Wanted to keep Matu Scarborough on the card, but he's still nursing that torn rotator cuff, but we're not going to forget about him. And just a little bow on this match with this segment here of 48. Now our next match, we've got the WAM Women's Champion Mio, formerly known as Kuni Hashiguchi, defending her championship against Mariana Calvo. Not a bad match. It would go on for just under 11 minutes. However, Mio would be the one to secure the victory thanks to the Savate kick, making her second defense of the Women's Championship thus far. Mio, excellent performance at 55. Mariana Calvo just down there at a 31, but I think she's going to get better. And we get a match rating of 50. Our junior heavyweight main event has got tag team action. Archie Filer and RT Lincoln, who were just challenging for the tag team championships at the last event, they came up short. However, they are teaming up once again and they come out on top here in this match. Archie Filer just doing the damn thing. In-ring performance of 74. RT Lincoln, in-ring performance of 60. Rollo Boy and Joe Cartwright both get 47s, however Joe Cartwright was very off of his game. But Archie Filer, my gosh, this man is just the diamond in the rough within the WAM right now. He's never held a championship, he's only been around for about a year and a half at this point, I want to say. But this dude is just, I don't even think he's been around for a year and a half at this point, I want to say, but dude is just killing it. And he continues to improve, and that in-ring performance is just impressive. Match rating of 62. Another tag team match for the main event. Not as good as the junior heavyweight, but we do have some more standouts here, as we've got Neil Allman with an in-ring performance of 75. The former WAM heavyweight champion, still showing that he's got that juice. Craig Bean, 45, Blue Mage, 59, Bronson Fraley, 53, as we've got another tag team match between the Dark Carnival and the WAM OGs. The WAM OGs take care of business as Bronson Fraley pinned Craig Bean. There wasn't any kind of chicanery to this match or anything like that. This showdown has been brewing for a while since the Dark Carnival sabotaged the WAM OGs tag team match. They've had indirect altercations and everything. This is basically a bit of a blow off for that. There's not a whole lot more that they can do without making it just redundant. So this basically is the blow off of this rivalry for now, of course. I'm sure their paths will cross again, just given everyone's status in the company. But this is a pretty definitive match, pretty definitive victory. Very physical, competitive tag team match. And we can't forget that we've got another gimmick change coming. Blue Mage's gimmick got pretty stale. It's now being rated as poor. We're going to change it, and his imposing dark figure gimmick gets an initial rating of great. Now for the final segment of the show, we've got Black Bull and Gary G. Emick making an appearance at the curtain. While they say nothing, they instantly grab the attention of Neil Allman and Bronson Fraley, ending their post-match celebration, who each have their own reason to go after Black Bull. Tension filled the atmosphere. However, it was not just between Black Bull and the WAM OGs, but also between Fraley and Allman themselves. So I'm just going to throw this out there, connect to some dots a little bit. Neil Allman has received his rematch after losing the WAM Heavyweight Championship. Bronson Fraley still very much wants to be the best in the company. Fraley and Neil Allman have united powers to become a superpower, more or less. That doesn't mean that Bronson Fraley is always going to lay down for Neil Allman. He's not his man, he's not his lackey or anything like that. Bronson Fraley is still very much Bronson Fraley. You know him, you love him. Two big egos. How much longer can they coexist? It hasn't been too long, but that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. But we get another segment rating of 62. Strong ratings to close out the night. You'd love to see it. We only increase our popularity in 5 regions. That's unfortunate. It's at the beginning of the month, so I'm not sure why we wouldn't be gaining popularity in all of our regions with this show rating. However, just a 59, not our strongest show, but not too shabby. I'm not going to sell myself short there. Now we praise Talia Rayleigh, Joe Cartwright, and Rocco Lockwood after the show. Strong financial profits, and we do gain popularity everywhere except for the Mid-South. Still sitting there at 56. Now we've got to address Talia Rayleigh's big morale issues. She's an angry lady, and as you can see down there, irritated at 2 handlings of recent incidents with Neil Allman, and then 1 at her own. So we're going to use some of these character ideas. We've only got 2 of them that are non-specified, so at the most she's only getting 2, and then we just fail 1. So that's terrible, and that was our near certainty, so okay, at least that one was a success. That's unfortunate. Let's just throw her a bone. Okay, at least she's goes from angry to annoyed. We gave her a $1,000 bonus. Obviously, our finances, we can do that now and not even have to think twice about it. It's still something I'm going to try to abstain from, especially to not break the immersion of being in 1933 and then just schlapping around $1,000 bonuses. So we're not going to do that to everybody because realistically we probably could buy our way out of these morale issues, but it's just not something that I'm going to do right now. And with our show out of the way, I am excited to get into this next part of the video. Thank you to everyone who recently responded to the post and one of the last comments in one of the last videos where I was looking for you to submit some wrestlers, some workers to put into our database. And we do have 7 fine competitors that have been inserted into the database, and I do got to preface it. I don't have immediate intentions of putting any of these guys in the WAM because I want to see what they do to the database. That was the whole point, is to liven up the database around us, obviously not just in the WAM. I'm not saying that they'll never get into the WAM, but I don't want to end up picking favorites or anything like that because I think all these guys are pretty cool. I love the backstories that came with them. You guys did awesome. It's never too late to submit wrestlers or workers to be put into the database. I may not do it every single time I see it, but I will keep track. I do have a spreadsheet for that. But without further ado, let's get into the additions into the database. With our first one, Blackjack Brutus Malloy, a former speakeasy enforcer who transitioned into wrestling when the prohibition ended and his, quote, employment opportunities dried up. He's got legit toughness, a natural heat magnet, leans into his outlaw reputation, threatening referees and bullying crowds. Promoters love him because he fills seats with people who want to see him get knocked out. Shout out All-Star Productions with that one. We ended up getting his skills, 60 brawling, 45 puro rezo, decent. I didn't want to make, he's got some good stuff. He's not used to selling, so I gave him low selling, just given some of his history. He's 29 years old. He does have some wear and tear on his body. He does have 15 experience. I started everybody with some level of experience and some level of popularity, even if it's not much. Some do have more than others, just depending on their backstory. He's got a temper. He'll develop quickly. He is prickly backstage and a political player. He's got that doesn't work for me, brother attribute, meaning he will not be actively putting over lesser talents. And I also made him a weapons specialist just for the hell of it. Up next, we've got Iron Elias Kruger. Thank you, Simple Crisis, for the submission on this one. Born to German immigrant parents in Milwaukee, Elias spent his youth working in foundries and rail yards. Before entering professional wrestling, he competed in local catch-as-catch-can tournaments and regional strongman exhibitions, perfect for the 1930s, where he became famous for bending horseshoes and carrying anvils across town squares. Really immersed into the 1930. I love the backstory with him. We gave him 87 charisma for his strongman showing capabilities, I suppose. He's got okay wrestling stats. He's not the best, but he is extremely powerful, extremely tough. And he's got some redeeming qualities about him for sure. He's got a little bit of popularity. 30 popularity in the Great Lakes for his tournaments. But I don't think there are even any companies in the Great Lakes as of right now. Got some okay attributes, good for a backstage, already had this existing comedy match performer from the character that we took over, a wide range of gimmicks that he can play. Up next, Dominic Theotokopoulos. This is a giant, a Greek giant. Thank you to the creator Panimo, I don't know if that's how you want to pronounce, but that's how I'm reading it. Forgive me, I'm not going to be able to pronounce everyone's names I already know. But anyway, big man, 6'8", 472 pounds, 215 kilograms. Absolute giant. Real name Spiros Nikitiadis. Born in Athens, Greece, from a young age was participating in fighting sports. Trained in boxing and Greco-Roman wrestling and became a professional Greco-Roman wrestler when he graduated from school, winning local tournaments. Eventually, he attended a pro wrestling show and liked it, so he asked the bookers if he can learn the art of pro wrestling. Not only is this a big man, but he is an athletic big man as well. He's very technically inclined for being a 25-year-old in this database, picking up his stage name based on the legendary artist with the nickname El Greco. So a lot of these guys, very tough, you know. This is a large man. Strong Piero Rezzo, strong technical. He's young, so he's going to continue to develop probably pretty quickly. Not super athletic, but okay basics. Got some strong popularity in the southern Mediterranean region at 30. Amateur wrestling background, strong popularity, former boxer, squash master, stud athlete, world traveler as some of his attributes. And I think this guy's got a bright future in professional wrestling. Up next, Erik Malmberg, a fictional Swedish wrestler who achieved a lot of Olympic success. Thank you to Eric Peak for suggesting him. He's won the bronze, the silver, and the gold in the Olympics for Greco-Roman wrestling, so he's going to fit like a glove into this database. He's 5'7", 145 pounds of pure muscle, and he has got phenomenal technical ability, 85, 90 in the basics. I gave him strong psychology and experience just given his age and his legitimate fictional background, and strong basics as well. Now his popularity, we gave him, he's basically a celebrity in Europe for his Olympic endeavors. He's got 60 popularity in Northern Europe, 40 in Southern Europe, 40 in Southern Mediterranean, 45 in both Central and Eastern Central Europe. So this man is, it may not be in America, but he is going to have quite the run for a few years, I think. And another man that's going to have a similar run is George Cavendish. This name, I knew I was not going to be able to get in there. Visud, I'm not, brother, I'm sorry, I can't even try to pronounce it, but we've got George Cavendish, 43-year-old. We didn't get a specified location, so we made him 43 years old, 219 pounds, so he could be a junior heavyweight if he ever came to the WAM, but he's right on that cusp. But he has got quite a very interesting backstory. A former MMA and Greco-Roman legend in his younger days, George Cavendish is a force to be reckoned with. After a career-ending knee injury, he transitioned to professional wrestling. He's the undisputed technical leader of the scene, but he's fighting on borrowed time. So I love the concept of this character. It makes me really want to use him in the WAM, I'm not gonna lie, but like I said, I don't want to end up focusing on anyone's character or showing any kind of favoritism. If they end up in the WAM, fantastic, but if not, I just can't guarantee it. I don't want to end up totally shifting out our own creations, you know what I'm saying? We could do a whole nother save with a community created roster. That could actually be fun, but I'm getting distracted. He's got 99 technical stat, 0 hardcore, 10 aerial, just okay at brawling, and decent brawling in Piero Rezzo, and decent flashiness and psychology given his career, 99 experience, good respect and reputation, 90 basics, 25 consistency, 27 stamina. And so this man, if he can get you within the first 5 minutes, he's got you. But if it takes longer than that, he falls apart. And that is by design, that is by creation of Visud. I hope you don't mind going by that. But we gave him some prominent popularity in his made-up region of Canada. I hope you're okay with Canada. 40 in Alberta, 20 in Quebec, 30 in the Northwest. So he's got a little bit of a footprint in America as well. Can't stay away from the business, easily marketable, good in the backstage, and some strong gimmick abilities as well. George Cavendish is going to be a big addition to the database. We've got gorgeous Gretzky here, 29-year-old. I don't think I even meant to specify his age, but he ended up being 29. So, anyway, I love this character. Hailing from Omaha, Nebraska, Gideon Gorgeous Gretzky is a high-class member of society, coming from a wealthy family who saw their fortunes increase during the Gilded Age and the 1920s. His arrogance knows no bounds, similar to a Chuck Wellington type. A very flamboyant character, not as similar to Chuck, which tends to rub people the wrong way when he brings his personalized robes and his own mirror to admire his looks to the ring. While he is normally well-mannered, if a wrestler hits him in the face, he loses his cool and goes nuts. So he does have this blonde afro. It's beautiful. Good stats, nothing. He's not necessarily the best in-ring worker. Ground-based submission type, good fundamentals. Really strong performance, 75 charisma, 70 microphone and acting. Everybody got 75 star quality. He only got 25 popularity in the Midwest to start out, but he's going to have plenty of opportunities as well. Amazing heel, fitness fanatic, future road agent and personality, modeling experience, but he is selfish, and he does have the knack for thinking that other workers are lesser than he is. So Gorgeous Gretzky, we meant to make him younger and have zero experience, but apparently that didn't work out. So here we are with that. Thank you, Lord Judgment 1818 for this edition. I like it a lot. And then we've got Henry Leadhands Worthshire, coming out of Alabama. He was an orphan growing up, and that toughened the young man. Working on farms and in mines made him strong, becoming a notorious pugilist in the mines because of his hot-headed nature. His finisher, a massive right hand that he calls the lead singer, or possibly lead singer, I don't know. It has knocked out countless opponents in the past. Olin Edwards 6928, thank you for the submission, brother. I love this character. 83 brawling, 40 puro rezo, 10 hardcore, 30 technical, 15 aerial, 25 flashiness, 36 psychology, 15 experience. Kind of middle of the pack to the exception of his really strong brawling. That's going to help him out a lot in this save. Low on the popularity, very low. He's only 26 years old. He's 6'8", 300 pounds. Big man. So he's got a bright future. He's based in America, and he's got some strong attributes. Born fighter, while this doesn't up his chances of provoking a fight, they do have an increased chance of getting pulled into a fight. He's intense. He will risk injury, and he is not a funny man. So there are our new additions. Let me check out the skills. Blackjack and Elias. I might just bump up these guys' stats just a little bit. I feel like these were, the first two guys that I created, and I feel like I may have shorted them in stats and popularity. Maybe not Elias Kruger in popularity, but I may have shorted them on the stats just a little bit. So we might go back and change that. However, that is not the only big development. If you notice this extra icon on my sidebar for switching players, having extra players in the game, there's a reason for it. I got a little crazy and I made some more wrestling companies into the database. We've got Olympic Greco-Roman Entertainment, Ogre Wrestling. I decided to make a new company just with all of the legit tough guys that I was creating. I ended up being inspired to make sure that there is a hub in the southern Mediterranean to where some of these guys can flourish, and our avatar for this is actually George Tragos, or Tragos. I may be mispronouncing it, but funny enough, he's born Greek. He is actually the trainer of Luthez for a few years, so this man knows what he's talking about. He's notorious for being incredibly hard on the people that he trained, spent some time in America, and eventually spent the rest of his life in America. However, in this database, in this save, he moves back to Greece to open up the Olympic Greco-Roman Entertainment. And he will act as a wrestler for a few years. He's only 36 years old at this point in time here in 1933. He's going to fit exactly what they're looking for. Really strong pure rezo skill, that is the main thing. Strong technical, really good basics. Low safety because he was known for being vicious and hurting people. So that's just another bit to that. He worked in St. Louis, so he doesn't necessarily have a ton of popularity because he was just a wrestling coach. So We didn't give him a ton there, but we did give him a nice little foundation, a 30 for the Southern Mediterranean region. Natural talent, so he should help train the other people that are there. And he's the owner of Ogre Wrestling. But that's not it, guys. We took it another step further. Daniel Loisel brought back Quebec Championship Wrestling. Now you see Quebec Championship Wrestling 2, QCW 2, that's going to bother me forever. It's going to drive me nuts. However, there's not anything that we can do about it because that's just how this game works. Once one company gets called a certain name, you can't do it again. And QCW opened up and shut down during my initial simulation, before I was really focusing on the rest of the database. And we're going on a decade of having no wrestling companies in Canada. And I feel like we just need to change that. And that's what we're doing. Daniel Loisel becoming the owner of QCW, reviving it. And we're going to see the presence of wrestling in Canada grow a lot more now. I'm going to go back as SPW and TWA and re-sign Daniel Loisel, since he did end up technically having to go unemployed to start this company again. But we brought him back, and it'll be really cool to see. I think I've been waiting for some kind of company in Canada to pop up, and it just hasn't happened. So we gave these companies a little bit of popularity as well. As you can see, QCW starts with 40 popularity right in Quebec, starting right there at the small size, only needing 19 points of popularity in their home region to move up to medium, immediately becoming number 4 in the world. And just behind them is Ogre Wrestling. We gave them 30 popularity in Southern Mediterranean and similar popularities in the nearby region, so just small, but we're going to make sure that they stay around for at least a little while. But now we've got 15 wrestling companies in the world, my goodness. And I'm excited for it. I hyped for the Canadian presence, and this Ogre Wrestling, it was just, I got excited with all the new guys I was making, and I wanted to contribute in my own way. We have made a few signings for both of these companies just to create a foundational roster, but I'm just going to let them go here in a minute. But before we do so, I'll just bump in here. We made the titles for Ogre Wrestling are Olympic Gold and Olympic Silver. I thought that's kind of cute as our secondary title. We're going to change the prestige on them, not take them down to 0 entirely. But actually, no, screw it. We'll let them keep the prestige. I don't know if we're going to do tag teams in Ogre though. And in all the fun and excitement we got caught up, Archie Filer officially made his contract exclusive with the WAM, and now Jeremy Funderburk is receiving an offer from SPW since Daniel Loisel lost his roster spot. That's crazy work to replace Daniel Loisel with Jeremy Funderburk. SPW, this is why you are falling through the cracks. I mentioned it in the recent episodes. They are now at 54 popularity in the Southeast. They've been at 55 since April of 1932, so now they're just going backwards. But there ain't no way I'm gonna let Jeremy Funderburk go to SPW. We're gonna exclusive handshake for 6 months. We're not gonna keep him exclusive, but we're just not gonna let SPW take Funderburk just because they're gonna get Daniel Loisel back. I'll make sure it happens. Well, maybe they're not gonna get Daniel Loisel because his contract with QCW2 is exclusive. That sucks for them. I guess SPW just lost Daniel Loisel. That wasn't intentional. Maybe I just totally ruined this save by doing that. But I don't think I did. I feel bad, but I did bring Blackjack Malloy into the SPW. You know what? We'll give them all the American guys. Nah, just the nicknames. Just the nicknames. Okay, so 2 have been shipped to SPW. And then we're going to see where the others go. And I did just realize I made those contracts while still with the WAM. And so I had to withdraw them. So now even if I wanted to sign them, they're not going to want to sign with us for a little while. Sorry guys, but your boys are SPW bound to All-Star Productions and Simple Crisis. So taking a look at the final starting roster for these companies, QCW has a few big names. Daniel Loisel, obviously a big one. But Lance Hennings is actually a generated celebrity, and he's got 60 plus popularity in Canada. QCW picked him up. We tried to set up the starting rosters with a few decent workers. With QCW, we had a nice mix of original QCW workers as well as some new faces. Luan Nelson, new face Anna Bean, as QCW will have a female division. But Brentley Tenney, he's been around for a long time but hasn't gotten a lot of work since QCW shut down. A new face, Daryl Kohler. Corvin Arpin, big man, 6'6", 300 pounds. George Cavendish has been picked up by QCW, so we'll see what he can do over in QCW. He's got some big names to compete with as well, but this man is capable of doing some damage, that's for sure. It says rookie up there, but he's no rookie. Aldrich Rosin, Aldrich Rosan, I'm sure I may be pronouncing that incorrectly. Floyd Matlock, Rhea Quarry, member of the WAM, now picked up by QCW. Jasper Heft, Leighton Weidman, QCW original. Mitchell Seeley at ref. Philip Schaffner, 20 years old. That man does not look like he's 20 years old. Jada O'Leary. Leo Huertes, also QCW original. Luis Upshaw, Philip Tilson, another QCW original. And then looking over at Ogre Wrestling, the roster is not as big. They've got a more specific criteria to join the roster. Eric Malmberg rounds it out with big numbers. Harvey Huntsberger, 6 foot 250. Dominic Theotokopoulos, picked up by Ogre Wrestling, so he's got a home. Goddard Mergen, Jerron Shippers, Bernard Beal, Jaeger Jass, Wyatt Bowl, some big boys over here in Ogre, and they've all got some serious skill in the Puro Rezo stat. And then of course the owner, George Tragos, who can definitely put it down himself. So 2 fictional characters over here in Greece, and it'll be interesting to see what they get up to as well. As I've already mentioned, we got the Olympic gold and Olympic silver medals. We can't get too wrapped up with the other companies as we've got our Fortnite fisticuffs to get into and another show after that. 3 pre-show matches tonight, the first being Ollie Schaefer and Jeremy Funderburk going one-on-one. The heavyweight Ollie Schaefer comes out victorious. Jeremy Funderburk back to his inconsistent ways, once again really off of his game, only getting an in-ring performance of 28. Ollie Schaefer with a 31, match rating of 28. Up next, we've got the ladies back in action and the WAM Women's Champion back in action, more specifically. Mio picking up a victory over Sheila Velasco in this pre-show match. The champion looking good with an in-ring performance of 58. Sheila Velasco down there at a 21. Hoping to see some better things from her, but we get a match rating of 46. Our final pre-show match has got a 6-person tag team match, as we've got Archie Filer, Super Monkey, and Super Rabbit teaming up, taking on Rocco Lockwood, Rolla Boy, and Talia Rayleigh. Archie Filer has no business being on the pre-show matches, but unfortunately he just didn't have anything in the main card, so we're not going to keep him on the bench. We've got him in this match, and he shows out with an in-ring performance of 75. Super Monkey making a great for himself as to why he should not be on the pre-show with a 63. Super Rabbit learning the ropes, and she's got 2 great partners to learn from, but she just gets a 25. Talia Rayleigh with a 36, a little surprising there on the good side. Higher than Rocco Lockwood, who got a 31, and Rolla Boy best for his team with a 47. Match rating of 53, pretty strong pre-show match, and Archie Filer definitely shined bright in this one. Now, as our main show gets going, we've got Diego Bergen and Kitahachi Kukui putting their tag team titles on the line. A bit of an open challenge here, as Brian Hatcher and August Washburn step up to the plate to answer that tag team title match. Unfortunately, we just get a match rating of 49, could be stronger here, but we do have Kitahachi Kukui and Diego Bergen coming out on top, retaining their tag team titles. August Washburn with a 33, Brian Hatcher with a 38, Kukui with a 49, and Diego Bergen with a 53. More tag team action as we've got the Wellington boys back up in it. Chuck Wellington and Duke teaming up against Woodrow Gunter and Maxwell Ham. Good to see Chuck Wellington back in those mid-40s as he's got a 46. Duke Wellington down there with a 33. Maxwell Ham with a 56, and Woodrow Gunter started the match with a 58. And we would see Ham and Gunter coming out on top in this one, picking up the victory after Maxwell Ham put down Duke Wellington with a dominator. But 2 strong contenders for the Oklahoma Openweight Championship. Chuck Wellington continues his shenanigans, and we get a match rating of 50. Now, in between matches, a commotion is heard coming from behind the curtain. Moses Lilia and Turner Spittler would appear, spilling out to the entrance mid-brawl. The two would throw fists and one another around for the crowd to witness, though they would soon make their way back behind the curtain, leaving the fans puzzled. Just a small snapshot, we didn't have enough time to get them in a match or anything like that together, so just a small snapshot of their aggression and their tension and their bad blood, a backstage fight spilling into audience view, but eventually spilling back out of audience view. And overall, we get a segment rating of 59 with Moses Lilia and Turner Spittler. Now in our next match, we've got a triple threat with the ladies as Berbidia Abeta, Veronica Lutter, and Mariana Calvo all put it down. And we'd see some good performances here as Veronica Lutter got a 50, Berbidia Abeta with a 45, and Mariana Calvo with a 34. Veronica Lutter would be the one to come out on top, pinning Mariana Calvo. Berbidia Abeta with a good performance but couldn't get it done here. She got a 45, Veronica Lutter with a 50, and Calvo with a 34. I may have just said that. Match rating of 45. Our next match, we've got two really strong competitors as the match quality begins to ramp up, as Hermenegildo Ramirez and Sebastian Morales come out to go one-on-one. And in a huge, shocking event, we would see Rahan Marlowe sabotaging Sebastian Morales to cause Hermenegildo Ramirez to pick up the upset over a former WAM heavyweight champion. Hermenegildo Ramirez with an in-ring performance of 75, Sebastian Morales with a 62, and these guys get a match rating of 65. Rahan Marlowe came in, distracting, causing a fuss, and doing everything he could to throw Sebastian Morales off of his game. It wasn't just a quick one-time thing that Sebastian Morales was doomed, but Morales was staying focused. He wasn't letting Marlowe hinder him. However, eventually he had to turn around and tell Marlowe to shut the hell up, and that was just enough to open the opportunity for Hermenegildo Ramirez to put down a former WAM heavyweight champion. Our main event, unfortunately, does not stack up to that match prior, as we've got Bronson Fraley and Neil Allman going one-on-one. And a big reason for this match not having a great rating is because it did in fact end in a draw. We set the match to end in a draw via time limit, but that wasn't exactly the case here. I just did it to preserve the rating as much as we could. We knew it was going to get hit regardless, so this was my way of compensating for that. Deal with it. We wanted them to steal the show. They did not do that, unfortunately. Neil Allman still with a strong performance of 63, Bronson Fraley 53, not terrible, but you'd like to see better in the main event. Match rating of 56, but the ending came from Bronson Fraley and Neil Allman being attacked by Black Bull, who took aim at both men. The champion showed no remorse and an unrelenting aggression as he brutalizes the WAM OGs. The two are caught off guard and too tired to pose proper resistance. Not to mention, Black Bull came equipped with a heavy chain in hand to provide extra firepower. The WAM OGs had been taken out, and Black Bull, not Bronson Fraley, stands tall to end the night. Forgive my typo there. But Black Bull continuing his revenge tour on the WAM OGs. He took the heavyweight championship from Neil Allman. He's got a little bit of unfinished business with Bronson Fraley in a way. It's clear that he's got his eyes on these two. This match, in theory, was scheduled to determine his next challenger at the Frank Norris Memorial Show, and that's why we had the WAM OGs going one-on-one with one another, and we get an inconclusive end to that match. So the main event, unfortunately, didn't do us any favors, and that results in an overall rating of 56, and our popularity still not increasing in the Mid-South, which is not exactly what we're looking for at this point, but let's get into the post-match praises. Talia Rayleigh, Super Monkey, and Mariana Calvo. Strong profits, and thankfully we do not lose any popularity in the Mid-South, but we just stay stagnant at 56, but we do bump from 21 to 22 in our Mexico regions. Layla Pascal's back to the last 30 days of her contract. We're going to extend it for 3 more months solely for the reason that she is dating Black Bull, and it provides a plus to the backstage atmosphere. Granted, we could probably survive losing that little boost, but I would still rather stay as ahead of it as possible. We've also got Raw Boy coming up on the end of his contract, and we are definitely going to renew that. We'll just add it for a year. He's doing some good things. He's not doing great things. And it seems that Eric Malmberg has been hired by QCW to become their booker, and I imagine he will probably wrestle for them as well, but he's still working for Ogre, of course, but they've not had a show yet, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'm not wrong. There you go. You can see that they have not had any shows. They did add a few more people since I gave AI control to the roster, and it just seems that they got themselves some broadcasters, so not a bad thing for that company by any means. You know, honestly, these broadcasters are rookies. The game honestly may have just generated them really quickly. It wasn't me, I swear. I would take full credit for it. But we have yet to see the inaugural show from Olympic Greco-Roman Entertainment. However, QCW is back in the swing of things as they got their first show, Riot Act, and we would see Rhea Quarry capture the QCW Queen title over Louise Upshaw. So we got some WAM representation here. Other notable matches being Lawan Nelson defeating Daniel Loisel for the top contender title, and then Lance Hennings teaming up with Leighton Weidman to defeat Leo Huertes and Corbin Arpin. Lance Hennings, once again, he is a celebrity just generated throughout the database, 60 plus popularity in Canada. He's going to do some big things for this company as far as exposure, and you can see that they got an attendance of 457 and a show rating of 38. However, we cannot forget about The Goof. We've got The Goof, one of their most recent shows, Taylor Simmons defeating Ben Morris to hang on to the King of Goof Championship. Lionel Seidel defeating Charlie Thompson, Blake Woodland, and No Cates to retain the Intercontinental title. Emmeline Tyson, still the Queen of Goof, and the wheels continue to turn for Goof Wrestling. I love it. They've grown up to 14 popularity in the Mid-Atlantic. It's only a matter of time before they reach that tiny size. However, it is time to once again pay our respects to the original founder and owner of the WAM, Frank Norris. Rest in peace, Frank Norris. Every 28th of May, we gather to host a wrestling show to remember our fallen friend. And we've got some pre-show matches, of course. That's no different from our normal status quo. A 4-way ladies match, and you might even see our little bonus down at the bottom that says Cody Tower and Wayne Blankenship have pretty good chemistry when calling matches together. We have added Wayne Blankenship to the commentary team, becoming the 3rd member and adding a little bit of spice. He's got great performance abilities, great charisma, great microphone, so that will translate into the commentary desk. We've got Rhea Quarry continuing her momentum from winning the QCW Women's Championship, or Queen's Championship rather, and she picks up a victory here in this 4-way match over Ivy Baldridge, Sheila Velasco, and Mariana Calvo. Rhea Quarry does get an in-ring performance of 32, Calvo with a 36, Baldridge with a 37, the best of the match, and Velasco with a 26. And it is worth noting that Ivy Baldridge did sustain some cracked ribs here. We get a match rating of 23 for our first pre-show match. And we've also got Ivy Baldridge changing up her gimmick to a black sheep gimmick, and it got an initial rating of very good. Unfortunately, it's going to hurt her during matches, but it's going to help her during angles. Now in the next pre-show match, we've got the Super Duo taking on Rayleigh and Rocco. Super Monkey and Super Rabbit coming out on top here as Super Monkey picked up the victory, and Super Monkey, wow, in-ring performance of 70, that man is showing out. Super Rabbit with a 30, Rocco Lockwood with a 36, and Talia Rayleigh with a 38. That bumps us up to a 49 for this pre-show match. And we did inspire the locker room, but Super Monkey getting a 70 was not on my bingo card for tonight, I'll tell you that much. In our next match, we've got Wayne Blankenship stepping out of the commentary desk for this one, taking on Ollie Schaefer. Unfortunately, Blankenship takes the loss here as the heavyweight Ollie Schaefer continues to just introduce himself to the universe of the WAM, the audience and the fans. He gets an in-ring performance of 37. We are seeing improvements as he continues to raise his popularity and of course slowly improve his skills as well. Our final pre-show match will see the Dark Carnival teaming up back in action against Brian Hatcher and August Washburn. Craig Bean, in-ring performance of 51, Blue Mage, great work 65, as the Dark Carnival picks up the victory over Washburn and Hatcher. Washburn with a 33 and Hatcher with a 45, and our final pre-show match gives us a 52. We've got the WAM Tag Team Championships on the line against a couple of very formidable competitors, Maxwell Ham and Woodrow Gunter. However, the team of Barakui would in fact come out on top, retaining their titles, but not without some further context as to what went down in this match, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Woodrow Gunter, however, in-ring performance of 59, Maxwell Ham best of the match with a 61, Kita Hachikakui with a 50, and Diego Bergen with a 55. This gives us a match rating of 61, great way to start the show, and as you can see, this is the 4th successful title defense for the tag team champs. Matu Scarborough interrupted the match when he began walking towards the ring, microphone equipped. Scarborough would shout at Maxwell Ham, scolding him for taking his eyes off of the Oklahoma Openweight Championship and settling with a loser like Woodrow Gunter. However, the cable for his microphone did not make it all the way to the ring, forcing him to drop the mic as he continued his approach. He was near ringside when he had completely distracted Gunter and Ham, making way for Barakui to retain their titles. That adds a little flavor to the match, keeping Matu Scarborough involved, and we get a segment rating of 52. Up next, we've got the ladies competing with the WAM Women's Championship on the line, and Berbidia Abeta suffers her 3rd or 4th injury since coming to the company. She's rather injury prone, which is unfortunate, but we don't see a bad match here. Match rating of 43. Berbidia Abeta is the only one that is marked as recognizable. The other two are unimportant for unfortunate reasons. That hurts our crowd rating, ultimately really affecting the match rating. Despite some good performances, Berbidia had an 49, Veronica Lutter 55, and Mio with the 57 as she successfully defends her championship. And she did pin Berbidia Abeta for that 1-2-3 to retain the title, not Veronica Lutter. Our next match is a very hard-hitting contest between Turner Spittler and Moses Lilia. We've seen this match before. However, Moses Lilia will not back down, refusing to let Turner Spittler just be the bully of the locker room and the roster. However, his efforts came up short here as Turner Spittler once again picks up a victory very decisively in this fashion, a clean 1-2-3 over Moses Lilia, another very big man. But Turner Spittler just ruthless and brutal with his attacks, very cerebral, high energy with those attacks, unrelenting, and just overwhelming for a lot of opponents. As you can see, he got an in-ring performance of 61, great stuff. Moses Lilia had a 56, and we get a match rating of 57. Now our next match, excellent performance as 3 of our 4 competitors had an in-ring performance over 70. That is phenomenal. Sebastian Morales and Archie Filer teaming up to take on Hermenegildo Ramirez and Rahan Marlowe. And in a big moment, we would see Archie Filer force the champion to submit. Hermenegildo Ramirez has been extremely arrogant and cocky during this championship reign, as to his credit, he has knocked down every challenger that has stepped to him. However, in this match, he falls to Archie Filer, forced to submit. Sebastian Morales and Rahan Marlowe have definitely had their bad blood. Rahan Marlowe basically sabotaged Sebastian Morales' most recent match before this event against Hermenegildo Ramirez, causing a loss to a junior heavyweight, which is still kind of taboo for heavyweights in this time period. But these guys just put on a show in this one. You know you got some good performers when Rahan Marlowe is labeled as the weak link and struggling to keep up. He did only come in with a 58, which is not his best work, but really strong stuff overall. And we would see Filer and Morales coming out on top. Match rating of 69, which does tie the record for the best in WAM history if I'm not mistaken. But all that doesn't matter because they were all just upended by a phenomenal triple threat featuring 3 WAM OGs. But let's just talk about the big one here. Match rating of 71. Woo-wee, my goodness. We are on fire here in the Wrestling Association of the Mid-South. That is so satisfying to see a green number for a wrestling match on our company. My gosh. Black Bull, Bronson Fraley, and Neil Allman, 3 guys who were here when the WAM had just begun, all very familiar with Frank Norris. I think he's looking down smiling right now, seeing his boys headlining the show in his honor. And we would in fact see Black Bull pinning Bronson Fraley, putting him down, hitting him with the gore, and defending that WAM Heavyweight Championship. Black Bull remains the champ. Neil Allman, very much flabbergasted. He can't believe it. He came in with an in-ring performance of 72 and he still didn't get the job done. Bronson Fraley with a 55, Black Bull with a 61, but Black Bull with an inspiring performance, reinforcing that he is on a tear. He cannot be stopped right now. It was a very intense match, high physicality, high aggression, and there wasn't a moment to rest throughout the entire thing from bell to bell in all 12 minutes and 56 seconds. Poetic justice, genuinely, to see these guys come out here and do what they've done. As the heavyweights absolutely impress and steal the show, we do have a creative finish that was a success that definitely helped, propelling us into this green number that is just so satisfying to look at, and that is going to end the show on an extremely strong note with Black Bull standing tall, still champion. Yes sir, overall rating of 68, increasing our popularity in 6 regions. That means the Mid-South, we're seeing growth over there once again. And after the show we praised Super Monkey, Talia Rayleigh, and Ivy Baldridge. 2 injuries after this show, unfortunately. However, we should be alright. Birbidia Abeta will be out of in-ring action, but that's only for 30 days. Ivy Baldridge will be just fine, and we should not even have this problem come our next show. Maybe one show, actually. Maybe one edition of the Fortnite Fisticuffs. Profiting just under $60,000 for this show, we are officially over $500,000 in our total finances. And we do see that jump from 56 to 57 here in the Mid-South. Great stuff. And that wraps up a big show, but before we get going, let's just check out a few more things. I want to go through the popularity of the roster again really quick. Ollie Schaefer, the newcomer, he has jumped his popularity up very quickly. He was just at 1 at the start of the year, now at 17 already here in May. 39 for Angus Wellington. 44 Archie Filer. August Washburn 22, Birbidia Abeta with a 29, Black Bull with a 52, which if I'm not mistaken is the highest on the roster, Blue Mage with a 39, Brian Hatcher 28, Bronson Fraley 46, Bryant Hines 33, Sheila Velasco 15, Chris Brownfield 39, Chuck Wellington 41, Cody Tower 42, Craig Bean 31, Diego Bergen 48, my goodness, this man is one of the top. Duke Wellington 23, Gary G. Imick with a 33 that has grown rather quickly. Hermenegildo Ramirez at a 47, which if you ask me, that should probably be a little bit higher. Ivy Baldridge at a 20, Jackson Barden 19, Jay Lutter 29, Jeremy Funderburk 16, that's dropped a little bit. Joel Cartwright 32, Kamari Flanders 13, Kenny Lyles 42, Kitahachi Kukui 33, Lance Hennings was an accidental sign, so forgive me there. He's on his way out, but I wasn't just going to burn the bridge. He's too good to pass up on entirely. Layla Pascal, the least popular on the roster with a 7. Mariana Calvo 24. Matu Scarborough 43. Maxwell Ham 39. Mio at a 30. She better not be unimportant anymore. Let's just check this really quick. She's finally recognizable, thank you. Moses Lilia 39, Neil Allman with a 50, Rolla Boy at 31, Rahan Marlowe 32, Rhea Corey with a 20, Rocco Lockwood at 23, RT Lincoln 39, Riker Zucker at 42, Sebastian Morales at 48, Super Monkey at 39, Super Rabbit at 18, Talia Rayleigh at 16, The Great Matsuo with a 41, that's very strong, Turner Spitler with a 45, Veronica Letter at 26, Wayne Blankenship at 15, and Woodrow Gunter at 38. And we would see Ogre Wrestling hold their very first event, Lightning Strikes, getting a show rating of 55 in front of 150 people, and we would see Eric Malmberg. He seems to be a Daniel Loisel clone, as he's just going to put on great matches. He defeats Jaeger Jass, who is a very prominent worker over in POG, to win the Olympic gold. I love that. I actually am very proud of myself for the name of those titles. I think that's satisfying. But anyway, we would see Dominic Theotokopoulos make his debut. He just gets an in-ring performance of 31. He's still got to build up some more popularity over there and redefine his skills. He's only 25 years old, so he's just going to get better. But this is a big man. 6'8", 472, and the fact that he's a technical wrestler just makes him terrifying. And we'd even see George Tragos getting involved with an in-ring performance of 69. Really good stuff here. However, that's going to do it for us here in this episode. We have made some major expansions into the database, and I am so excited to see how it all develops. And remember, if you want to add and be a part of this database as well, leave some comments down below. I am definitely still accepting submissions for workers beyond just wrestlers. Wrestlers too, but we need more than just wrestlers as well. You want to see an on-screen personality get thrown into the database, maybe a referee to create a legacy, an 18-year-old ref to go 40 years into the database. Who knows? Whatever you want to contribute into the database, throw it down in there. I'll try to get everybody at least some part of it. I'll try to get everybody at least once. But we are cooking here in the WAM, and I am grateful to have you here watching. So thank you for being here, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.